Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Shanafold.
In our top story, Jerusalem called for another lockdown order for the end of the Passover holiday last week. This drastic measure is meant to decrease the number of new coronavirus cases so that the Jewish state can eventually restart the economy and return to normalcy. There has been much anticipation that the country will slowly begin to resume some economic activities within a week after the holiday.
A revolutionary new Israeli treatment for coronavirus is showing tremendous potential. In fact, preliminary data is reflecting a 100% survival rate. Pluristem announced last week that 6 critically ill patients were treated with the company's placenta-based cell therapy, and all 6 survived. All of the patients treated were initially considered to be at a high risk of mortality. They were suffering from acute respiratory failure, and 4 of the patients were experiencing organ deterioration. But following treatment, the 4 showed improved respiratory signs. The cell implant triggers an immune system response in order to get natural regulation back on track. The company's CEO and president said that Pluristem is committed to harnessing these special cells for the benefit of patients and healthcare systems everywhere, and that the company is dedicated to using its competitive advantages in large-scale manufacturing to potentially deliver the cells to a wide number of patients who are in significant need.
The Passover priestly blessing, which usually draws tens of thousands of spectators to the Western Wall in Jerusalem's Old City, was drastically limited this year due to the coronavirus. Only 10 people were allowed to participate in the sacred ritual in which Kohanim, or Jews who have descended from the line of Moses' brother Aaron, recite the priestly blessing mentioned in the biblical book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman, who was one of the 10 participants, noted how different this year's event was from last year, where he was one of 100,000 people who gathered at the Western Wall for the prayers. Friedman said that he used the opportunity to pray that the world will be spared further illness and sorrow from COVID-19 or any other diseases.
An armed Arab terrorist infiltrated an Israeli army base in southern Israel during the Passover holiday. The knife-wielding attacker wounded 2 soldiers after penetrating the base's perimeter in the early hours of the morning. The terrorist escaped, sparking a manhunt throughout southern Israel. The IDF speculates that the intruder intended to steal weapons.
The IDF has delivered a stern warning to the Syrian army after it was seen in the Golan Heights with members of Hezbollah. Surveillance video captured senior Syrian military officials with members of the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terror group attempting to establish a front in the Golan Heights. The IDF released a statement saying that the clip shows the new commander of the Syrian Army's 1st Division on a patrol along the border region with the head of Hezbollah's southern command. The Israeli army warned that the Assad regime would be held responsible for all enemy activities emanating from this territory.
Despite major concerns about the misuse of international funds for terror, the European Union has pledged 71 million euros to the Palestinian Authority. Recently, we reported on the Palestinian Authority's decision to continue paying the families of terrorists despite the economic crisis caused by the coronavirus. These pay-to-slay stipends are paid first before the salaries of public servants. Still, the European Union has decided to provide the 71 million to the Palestinian Authority for coronavirus relief and humanitarian aid. Israel has been providing the PA with medical equipment and supplies. And while it encourages the humanitarian aid, the Jewish state is looking to the EU for assurance that these new funds will not be used for terror.
One of the ways that Palestinian leaders try to prevent their people from making peace with Israel is by forbidding contact with Israelis. Any attempt to do so is punishable by law. This is exactly what happened when a group of young Arab activists held an online meeting with Israelis to discuss coronavirus cooperation. 38-year-old Rami Aman, the founder of the Gaza Youth Committee, has been detained by Hamas operatives and accused of collaborating with the enemy, Israel. Aman's family said he was arrested by the terror group shortly after the video call with the Israelis and that he has not been seen or heard from since.
A chemical weapons watchdog group has found the Assad regime responsible for toxic attacks against Syrian civilians back in 2017. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons released a report stating that there are reasonable grounds to believe the Syrian Air Force used sarin gas and chlorine as chemical weapons. The detonation of a canister of chlorine gas on a hospital is just one of the attacks listed in this report. This is the first time that the government of President Bashar al-Assad is being held accountable for using chemical weapons.
The Muslim holiday month of Ramadan is quickly approaching, and the entire Middle East is wondering how to control the Arab public's observance of the holiday so as not to further spread the coronavirus. Egypt has already banned gatherings and communal iftars, which are the traditional meals breaking the daily fast during the month-long holiday. The Arab community in Israel currently has a low infection rate, but many fear that if social distancing rules are not enforced, there will be a devastating outbreak. Muslims are also inundated with disinformation from their leaders who blame Israel for the disease and accuse Jerusalem of trying to limit their freedom and rights. Rather than investing precious time and effort into saving their own people, the Palestinian Authority has launched a campaign of incitement accusing Israel of intentionally spreading the virus in Arab villages.
Germany continues to allow Iranian banks sanctioned by the Trump administration to conduct business in the country. The organization United Against Nuclear Iran has published a report stating that Angela Merkel's government has allowed Iranian banking institutions to continue to operate in Germany despite being sanctioned by the U.S. Bank Melli, the oldest Iranian bank operating in Germany, has provided support to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and enabled the terrorist organization to freely move funds in and out of the Islamic Republic. The report also notes that the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network has described one of these Iranian banks as a money laundering threat, having assisted several of Iran's top military defense agencies and its aerospace industry.
In archaeological news, what's known as the Nazareth inscription has gone through modern high-tech testing, which has proven that the artifact did not originate in the Holy Land. The marble slab holds a Greek inscription detailing an edict from an unnamed Roman emperor forbidding tampering with bodies in a tomb. Due to the nature of the text, some scholars claim that the Nazareth inscription was the earliest physical evidence of Christianity. However, recent testing proves that the slab did not come from Nazareth, but from the Greek island of Kos. The artifact was discovered in Paris in 1925 after the death of antiquities collector Wilhelm Freuner. He mentioned the stone in a journal stating that it was sent to him from Nazareth in 1878. But the provenance of the piece has been lost, making it difficult to date or authenticate.
For the first time in over 50 years, the traditional site of Jesus' baptism has been cleared of landmines. Just a few miles east of Jericho, along the Jordan River, lies a cluster of ancient churches and monasteries built in a place called Qasr al-Yehud, or the Castle of the Jews. Jewish tradition holds that this is the exact location where the Israelites crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land, and also where Elijah the prophet ascended to heaven in a chariot of fire. Israel declared the entire area of Qasr al-Yehud a closed military zone after the Six-Day War in 1967, and they planted more than 6,500 landmines to prevent terrorists from infiltrating the area from Jordan and using the abandoned churches as a staging ground for attacks on Israeli communities. In 2011, Israel opened an access road to safely transport pilgrims around the deadly explosives to the baptismal site. The Jewish state has invested millions of dollars in efforts to demine the area, and just a few weeks ago, sappers detonated what they believe to be the last 500 mines. Now that the area is clear, major work will begin to restore those churches and monasteries. A group of quarantined Israeli young people have decided to focus on something positive during this difficult time. They've created a map of mitzvot, or good deeds in English. Times of crisis can become an opportunity to help people and make a difference in the world. These Israeli teens decided to catalog good deeds and hopefully inspire others to pay it forward. The interactive site allows do-gooders to fill out a questionnaire about their deed, and then the listing is checked and posted. One example is Best Rental Cars, right here in Jerusalem, which has offered vehicles to overworked medical staff free of charge. This good deed is exactly the type of activity that 18-year-old Nadav Weiss wanted to chart. He hopes that good deeds will become contagious if publicized. Weiss recruited several friends who helped create the good deed map, and it already shows hundreds of entries from all over the world.
Sirens will sound throughout the Jewish state, and all activity will come to a complete halt for 2 minutes on Tuesday morning as Israel observes Holocaust Remembrance Day. For the duration of the siren, the nation stops and pays solemn tribute to 6 million Jewish victims of the Shoah. The main service, which is usually held at Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial, will be broadcast virtually this year. The Holocaust Remembrance Day opening ceremony will begin at 8 p.m. Israel time on Monday evening. Holocaust survivors traditionally light 6 torches in memory of 6 million Jews murdered by Germany and its collaborators during the Second World War.
A very special program to pray Kaddish for coronavirus victims has been started among ultra-Orthodox soldiers serving in the Israeli army. Jewish law dictates that when a Jew dies, a minyan, or a group of 10 Jewish men, are to gather to recite a formal prayer for Jewish mourners. Unfortunately, this ritual has become much more difficult as family members are spread across the world and travel has become impossible. The Haredi Netzach Yehuda unit of the IDF has been quarantined on base and realized that they're in a unique position to recite these prayers on behalf of families who've lost loved ones. The unit has invited the public to submit names online so that deceased family members can be properly honored. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Nati Ram. He's an advocate for Judea and Samaria. Nati, thank you for being on the show.
Shalom, thank you for having me.
Tell our viewers a little about what is Judea and Samaria. Where is Judea and Samaria?
Judea and Samaria is the heartland of Israel, is the biblical core of Israel. It's where the spiritual, our beginning in Shiloh, in Hebron, in Shechem, all those biblical places. This is our heartland.
So what exactly do you do in Judea and Samaria?
In the last 20 years, I'm trying to advocate to bring more tourists, more friends from Israel and from abroad to come to see in their own eyes, to connect to the heartland of Israel. We were 4 young boys after our military service. We came there and we started to heritage the land and to fulfill the prophecies.
You know, you're a jack of all trades. You're a lawyer, but you're also a businessman, and you're also a spiritual leader. Tell us a little about the 3 different hats.
Okay, so as I said, after my military service, we wanted to do something significant for Israel, to take our belief in our Bible seriously, not only as fairy tales to say to our children, and to go to where everything happened. The stories of the Bible, 95% of them happens in Judea and Samaria, in the heartland. So we went to Shiloh, the prayer of Hannah, where the tabernacle was there, and we started to build new villages in Judea and Samaria. This is my pioneer side. About business, we are trying to bring businesses to Judea and Samaria. We are buying land from Arabs. We redeem the land as the Bible commandments, to bring to buy land to private hands, to build more villages, and to bring businesses to Judea and Samaria, and to fight the BDS and the boycotts.
You mentioned the BDS, and you've been very involved in that in several cases. Why is it so important to stand up against BDS?
It's amazing how our enemies know where to hit. They are focusing on the heartland of Israel, on the heart. They are trying to close the businesses and to close the pockets, the income of people in the Judea and Samaria. And this is where we came, and we are helping small businesses. We are helping pioneers to start and to establish more hilltops, more villages. We see today how important is it, all the white dots on the map of all the programs that we see, peace programs and solution programs. The most important is that the pioneers, they are Hebrew pioneers in the heartland of Israel, who are doing everything they can to heritage the land.
You know, you become quite an international superstar. You fly all over the world speaking about Israel. Why is it so important to bring the message to the world?
So telling you, everybody is speaking about hardness, and you have a lot of viewers who love Israel, but not a lot of them understand what is the hardness of Israel, what is Judea and Samaria. And I'm trying to bring this connection, to build a bridge between the real pioneers, biblical pioneers in the heartland, in the front line of Israel, with people all over the world who love Israel. They love Israel, but they need to know more, they need to connect more, and they need to come to visit us more.
You've decided strategically that it's more important to speak to evangelical, Bible-believing Christians than anyone else about the message of Judea and Samaria, and you've reached out to the Christian community. Why Christians?
So you said some big names, but I am going to speak with people who love Israel and love Hashem, love God, and love the Bible. Jews and non-Jews from different cultures, everybody who is serious with his belief and read the Bible and connect to this land need to know more. And because of all this information in the world, it's important to do those bridges. More natural than to bring pioneers who risking their life daily to live in the heartland of Israel only because God told them, and to connect these brave pioneers with people all over the world who want to be connected and want to be a part of this story. You know, we have a story together, we have a Bible together, we share a lot of things in common, and it's important to do those connections.
President Trump a few months ago released a deal of the century. Some people are excited because of sovereignty, some people are disappointed because of a two-state solution. What's your take on it?
My take on it is the only solution from the Bible. We need to do sovereignty. It's a biblical sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. Long time ago we need to do it. This is our land, biblically, morally, historically, and all the other part of this program of bringing something to another people, to give the land to the so-called Palestinians, or to give up 95% of the land of Israel, of course we don't accept. We are biblical pioneers, biblical Zionism. This is the real Zionism of 2020. To go back to our roots, to go back to our Bible, to redeem the land of Israel as Hashem told us.
You've done that not just by speaking about it and by investing in it, but you've actually physically done that. You have a farm that you've developed near Shiloh, and groups from all over the world come to visit you. What is their reaction when they see what you've built?
Since I am 16 years old, I went to do what Hashem told us, the prophets told us, to go to redeem the land of Israel, to go to hilltop after hilltop and to start new villages in Judea and Samaria. People are coming from Israel and from all over the world. They are coming and they are amazed. They want to see how it is to live in a biblical way, with a biblical vision, and this is something very, very important. This is how you bring Mashiach. And if you love Israel and you want to be connected to Israel, go to the heartland of Israel. Go to the pioneers in the front line, the biblical heartland of Israel.
We see this in Israel, that God is fulfilling His prophecy. We're seeing it every day with the lives we lead. What role do Christians have in the fulfillment of prophecy?
All the nations. We are light for the nations. There is a big battle in Israel between people who want to be light for the nations or want to be like the nations. And we need to choose. The first thing is among ourselves, who we are. We are Jewish, biblical, Jewish who want to go back to our biblical land, and we are here to stay. And everybody who want to share with us this Bible, these prophecies, and this story is welcome, and we need to establish more connection to those people all over the world. And thanks God, I am traveling, as you said, 1 or 2 times a month to communities all over the world from different backgrounds, and everybody want to know more and to connect more. There is a very special movement of people are coming back to the roots, to the biblical roots, and I hope that more and more people will join us.
Nati, there are literally millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Friends, people from all over the world, our enemies are fighting us very strongly. They understand that if they want to fight Israel, they need to fight the heartland of Israel and the pioneers in Judea and Samaria. It's about time that people who love Israel will have more knowledge about Judea and Samaria, come to visit us, be in touch with us, and come to make a real bridge and a real partnership with the pioneers in Judea and Samaria.
Thank you, Nati, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren HaYesod. I'm Sam Grundwerg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. In the 1990s, we witnessed the biggest aliyah in Israel's history from the former Soviet Union. Once again, the Jews of Russia are streaming home to Israel. Help us bring them back to the Promised Land.
Since the beginning of the 20th century, supporters of Keren HaYesod spearheaded the efforts needed to establish the first independent Jewish state after 2,000 years of exile. For Jews across the world, Keren HaYesod helped forge a new age of hope, making the dream of 2 millennia come true. But at the same time, the Jews living in the former Soviet Union suffered immensely. Religious practice was suppressed, and Jewish national identity crushed. By the 1950s, under Stalin's cruel regime, countless persecuted Jews were executed or sent far away to the gulags. Russia's once thriving Jewish life was no more. But many refused to forget their heritage and God's covenant with the Jewish people. Secretly, they studied Hebrew and the Torah. They covertly practiced holiday celebrations. And above all, they dreamt of returning to the Jewish homeland, to Israel. Aware of the consequences, many still applied for exit visas. Viewed by the Soviet authorities as an act of treason, these brave individuals were dismissed from their jobs, harassed, and ostracized from society. By the 1970s, many leading Jewish activists had been sentenced to long periods in jail for fabricated offenses. But even suffering in the most appalling conditions, they continued to demand they be allowed to go free to Israel. Because of their refusal to give in, they became known globally as refuseniks. Their determination inspired a mass international solidarity movement. Jews across the world, including the supporters of Keren HaYesod and their Christian friends, held mass demonstrations and lobbied global leaders. In the words of the Bible, they demanded, "Let my people go." Refuseniks such as Natan Sharansky became household names. Alongside the likes of Yuli Edelstein, Ida Nudel, and other prisoners of Zion, they became international symbols of human rights and Jewish freedom.
Successful demonstration in those days of Jews who wanted to go to Israel was 5-10 people standing for 5 minutes in the center of Moscow Square with the slogans, "Let us go to Israel." The more people know about demonstration, the more chance that KGB, secret police, will know. Then there will be no demonstration. And the punishment can be up to 5 years of exile. But the idea was that if at least one foreign journalist knows about this, and he will come and he will inform, we are arrested. In the evening it is broadcasted all over the world about our arrest. Next day, hundreds of thousands of Jews all over the world go on their demonstrations, demand from their government to act. And that's how we were organizing this struggle.
By the end of the 1980s, the pressure began to pay off. Sharansky became the first political prisoner released by Soviet Premier Gorbachev. Sharansky and his comrades were welcomed to Israel as heroes, bringing to life the prophecy of Zechariah, "I will return to Zion and dwell in Jerusalem." When Communist Russia collapsed in the early 1990s, over 1 million Jews followed these prisoners of Zion to Israel. With Keren HaYesod's help, they built flourishing lives in the home of their forefathers. Those who once languished in Russian jails became influential Israeli leaders. Sharansky served as a 4-time minister and deputy prime minister. After being imprisoned for 3 years in Siberia, Yuli Edelstein is now current Speaker of Israel's parliament. Ida Nudel remains a leading social activist and a powerful Israeli public voice. The legacy of the prisoners of Zion will truly continue to shine bright for many years to come. And yet, there's so much more work to be done to help bring more Jews from Russia back home to Israel. Keren HaYesod remains at the heart of this mission. Now is your chance to join us in supporting the next wave of Aliyah from Russia and be part of history in the making.
Let's bless Israel together.
Now's the time for you to get involved. Assist Karen Hayesod to raise the necessary funds in order to bring Jews yearning for their homeland back to Israel. Your donation can help fulfill the biblical prophecy today. To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Jewish people around the world, I want to send you wishes for a happy Passover. That's strange, because this Passover is different from all other Passovers. I know that there is not a section of the globe that is not afflicted with the corona. And it requires us, all of us, to change our way of living, our way of life, and our way of celebrating even ancient holidays like Passover. This has got to be a first. Perhaps with the exception of the first Passover, because we were sitting ensconced in the homes in Egypt, and we hoped that the pestilence would pass over our homes. Well, this is exactly what we in Israel are doing today, and probably what many of you are doing in the diaspora. So I ask you first to abide by the directions that are given by your respective governments and health ministries. But equally, I want you to remember our shared destiny, that shared destiny that has enabled the Jewish people to overcome the greatest trials and tribulations since the beginning of time, or since the beginning of our recorded time. We've overcome so many challenges. We've reestablished our state, we've reestablished our independence, and we formed one of the great societies on earth, the State of Israel. That is your home and will always be your home. Please celebrate Passover with your close family, and please remember that we are holding our hearts for you every day, and especially this day. Thank you. Chag Sameach.
The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Bless Israel by supporting Karen Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Shanna Fold, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel news updates.